Hi Leah, here to record a video for you because I noticed you were treading water a little bit on writing your results section because it didn't look like you had much results. But I cleaned up your data a little bit and I wanted to show you exactly what's going on in this sheet, the additive expectation and synergy score. What you're doing is you are creating a variable. The variable is called synergy score, as in it's kind of like us making a high score on a video game, and this game happens to be how well these uh, different antibiotics work together. If, let's say, we were to add um, ampicillin into a plate and we expected uh, a zone of inhibition that had 1 millimeter, and we added gentamicin to a plate and we expected a zone of inhibition of 2 millimeters. Well, by the transitive property, we should expect that if we add those two together, that it would be 3 millimeters of zone of inhibition because they should work independently of one another. But we, as the scientists here, are saying maybe that's not the case. Maybe they interfere with each other. Maybe they make each other better. That's the big question here. Did the combination outperform or underperform what we would expect if we were just having the two antibiotics do their own thing and work by themselves? Um, we found what the zone of inhibition was for the 100% ampicillin treatment, that's 1.4166, and the 100% gentamicin with no ampicillin was 1.116. If you add those together, that should be about 2.566 or so. And we can actually use that to determine the score of how they would have been versus how they actually were. So the expected would be based on the concentrations of the two and how much were actually happening. But the observed is what you actually got, the data that you actually got. And if I take this value, observed minus expected, I can see which ones worked well and which ones worked poorly, as in which ones caused the zone of inhibition to be bigger when you added these two antibiotics together, and which ones made the zone of inhibition smaller when you added these two together. Now, the way to think about this is just as we said, if there is a positive number here, like we have with the green values here, and some of them are a little bit less green, so a little bit less exciting of results. But if it is green, that means that they had a more massive zone of inhibition than was predicted or expected. And that's synergy. Those two antibiotics worked together better than expected of each individually. If the value is about zero, then hey, that's they worked as they were assumed to work. And if the value is negative, then this is what we call antagonism. That would be N, not M. Antagonism, where they work against each other and they do a little bit worse. Now, visualizing these results, you can see which ones worked better for you, but this is not easy to show in a way that's conducive for a research paper because you're going to have like 1,000 different bar charts or 1,000 different lines and they won't add up to anything very meaningful. So, might I suggest something that I worked on today with Riley, which is called a heat map? You might remember seeing a heat map when we did our work in human body systems. We talked about chronic kidney disease, and we saw how two different variables interacted with each other to predict how likely someone was to have chronic kidney disease. Well, I did some coding. I learned this afternoon, and I made you and Riley different heat maps that show the concentration of one of your antibiotics and the other antibiotic on this side, and you can see kind of exactly if we line up those values, 0 and 0 is if I had no antibiotics at all, and it worked exactly the way we intended to, so that value has a score, a synergy score of 0. And you see that your best values are low ampicillin concentration and low gentamicin concentration. And when you had the higher concentrations, they worked antagonistically to each other. And this is a great way to visualize results and put it on display for your poster. Feel free to ask me for this. We can also, I feel like it would be easier to see if we made this 0 and 0 like a graph instead. So maybe I'll reverse the y-axis here. I can also change the colors to it. It's just a little bit of code that I have to learn how to do. So just let me know if there's changes you want me to try, and we can try them as much as you like. It's very, once you change one line, you just click the play button and it changes. So let me know if there's something you'd like me to explain a little bit further, if you want me to do some adjustments to this, if you just want this straight away. We can even make it match your color scheme for your poster if you wanted to. Up to you entirely. Hopefully that helps you with your treading water business here.